Hello. Oh, you see Manica behind me. Hi, everybody. We are here. Well, I'm here. Bones will join us eventually. Hi. Okay, let's... Oh, you finished reading? Okay. Okay. I'll call you in when it's your cue. Look at that boy. Oh, look at that boy and that dog. The friendship of the century. We don't know. They're both so hairy. Oh, snuggles. Okay, hi everybody. We're doing part 2 of our critique stream. So last week, on Thursday, this past week, we looked at a bunch of our long form submissions, meaning like longer scripts, longer sections of comic pages, looking at outlines and stuff. Today we are doing our short form stuff, which is more just like single illustrations and designs. So yeah, the critique stream is early this month because next weekend on Saturday we are doing a 24-hour stream. So be there or be square. But yeah, okay, anyways, so we're gonna start. Our lovely friend Fitz / Ace of Pancakes asked to go first because they have to go after the stream. So yeah, here we will begin. Alrighty. Alrighty. Sorry, I'm just organizing my screen here so I can read everything. Okay. Okay. So a drawing featuring Lyle, he's a werewolf, in which he lost a bet. Curious how the style looks. I went straight from a pose tutorial to line art and coloring, instead of sketching out features on top of the poses. Okay. Simplified shading. I think it would be more efficient for a comic. In addition to that, more specific thoughts on line art, pose, colors, expressions in the background, and what sort of character vibes do I get? Okay. The other character is Donnie. Oh, a post thumbnail. Did I say tutorial? I'm sorry. Oh, you're right. It says thumbnail. Oopsie. My bad. Okay. Okay. So, right. So, the poses are great. They're very dynamic. I like how between the characters, there's a really nice, you've got a lot of like crisscrossing lines going on, which adds a lot of like dynamic to it. So for example, like, Donnie's legs are going like one direction, and then Lyle's are going the other direction, and just that crisscross in lines, like I said, just makes things more dynamic, which I think is great. Yeah, I think it's a really fun way to set up character poses. Like you have they're just from their poses, that's this kind of X shape going on in the composition, and I think yeah, it just adds a lot of movement. It's really fun. The colors are really cute and adorable as per usual. You've got a very good sense of color. Yeah, I love the balance of the green and the pink, which obviously are contrasting colors. So mwah, chef kiss. Yeah, and I like how Lyle, a lot of his colors are this very pinky red. And not super pinky, but like a pinkish red, if you get me. Whereas Donnie has the green and the purple, and purple and green go well together. So yeah, Anyways, great color stuff. Right. Sorry, so looking at the poses and stuff. I think there are some minor proportioning weirdness things going on. But I think that is a result of going straight from like a thumbnail to doing line art like you mentioned. Like, and it's really small stuff. Like, I'm just noticing, I think Donnie's head might be like a smidgen too big. And this arm feels a little... Well, no, I think both Donnie's arms feel a little too short, but I'm not sure if that's because the hands and feet are kind of stylized to be like a little bit bigger because it's a very like simplified cutesy style. But I find Lyle's proportions are all really really well done. I think there's just a little tiny things off on Donnie. Great expression work. The expressions are really easy to read. They're really cute. I think the faces are well proportioned to the face. To the head, I guess. And yeah, I think you've done a good job too with making the characters feel grounded. I think it really helps with having like the shadow. So you can really tell where the feet are like touching the ground, which is great work. So they don't feel all floaty. With Donnie, I was trying to make him look shorter, but I didn't put enough time into that. Okay, that's fair. I know it's hard because Donnie's like farther forward a little bit in the pose, where Lyle's more backward, like farther back in the picture. So yeah, so it's a little hard to make sure the tall one seems taller and the short one seems shorter, because of how close they are to the camera. So yeah, so I can understand that being a trouble. Sorry, let me check the other things you were talking about. Mannika's gone off to yell. Okay, character vibes. I should do that before I forget. Donnie seems very sweet and cheeky and happy-go-lucky type, where Lyle seems more, he kind of reminds me of, like, I think it's just clothing and hair, but he looks like a greaser type. Like, a tough guy. Type deal. And I think it's helped by the... Oh dear, it's all kicking off. I think it's his tough guy persona is definitely helped by the little scars and stuff on his face. Though he's a werewolf, so maybe it's just from werewolf fights. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, he gives tough guy vibes. I feel like he'd ride a motorcycle. That's the problem with dogs. One starts barking, they all start barking. The coloring style is... I really like the line work. I like how it's like, really chunky. I think it works really well with your style. It adds like, it feels very cutesy, if that makes sense. Like, it reminds me of...
Annika, stop!
Oh dear. It's okay. Right, the chunky line work, it feels kind of like not exactly, but it reminds me of like that kind of Pusheen style, where like with the really chunky line art. Pusheen is obviously more like uh smooth and kind of vector based, but same kind of vibe. If you get me, I think it's helped by the really pastel-y colors. But yeah, I think it's really cute. I really like the colored line art, and I like how you've used different pieces of the line art that are darker, some are lighter. I think that works really, really well. It adds a lot of dimension, and it's really cute. One place where I'm not so sure about it is the bottom here of Donnie's knee, where you've used the lighter color on the underside of the knee, and I think it loses some of the definition on the leg, because I really like the way you've used the lighter line art on Lyle's pants. So like details on the pants and folds, you've used like a lighter stroke, whereas like things that have more definition, like the cuffs and like the button overlap piece on the belt, are all darker to kind of give it more definition, and I think that just needs to carry over to Donnie's leg here, but you've done it like really well everywhere else on Donnie. Yeah, I think that's everything. I think you did a really good job with the dynamic posing. Yeah. Overall, super cute. I think there's just a couple little minor tweaks to look at, but I think it's just because you were working quickly, which is fine, which is legit. And I think this would work really well as a comic style, especially if you're able to do it quickly. But yeah, do you have any other questions, Ace? Let me know. Okay, so for... Oh my goodness, I'm sorry, guys. Sleepy Gary. That's good? Okay, awesome. So for the next one, a design / illustration of a character for a comic. That's a mix of my two previous concepts. He's the antagonist. His name is Sinclair, and he works as a researcher for an organization that puts on a front of lawfulness. Okay, so it's post-apocalyptic, futuristic. Large percentage of what's left of the population have mutated. Oh, okay, hence the bug legs coming out of his back. Okay, so what personality vibes I get from him. So I'll do that first before I read on. Chorl, let me on, please. Without judgment. No judging. No judging Gary. Okay. So the vibe I get from this character, I'd be more offended if you didn't yawn. You know what? That's fair. There's something wrong with me if I'm not yawning. Or sniffling at this point. I do agree. I do like the asymmetrical outfit. Okay. So personality-wise, Sinclair seems very, you know that, like, character archetype where they're, like, they act all cute, but they're evil. And they're like, he seems like a sadist. Does that make sense? Like he's evil and he doles out pain and is all like cute ooh woo about it. I'm thinking like Harume Nui from Kill la Kill type. Like, um, I think the outfit too makes me feel like Sinclair is like a research scientist or like a medical person. It reminds me of like a nurse outfit. Yeah, with just like the way the shirt buttons and then the gloves. It feels very medical-y. Fairly accurate. But yeah, but he seems like he delivers like terrifying a dialogue with a cute little smile on his face. Oh, thanks, Poppy. Welcome to the stream. It's because they have white hair. Never trust someone in the medical profession? 100%. Never trust. Especially in the future. Okay. So let's see. I will reveal the personality that was under a spoiler warning on Discord. He's very work focused, has a cold attitude and way of speaking, but usually has a friendly smile. He's a clean freak and also lacks some common sense due to his upbringing. See, I definitely get that. Seems very... Yeah, I can see that working. Like, really cold and clinical, but all while smiling. And you're like, the words do not match the expression. They know how to stab you up. Exactly. They know where all your vital organs are. Do not trust them. Never trust a medical professional that doesn't have bags under their eyes. Yes. Okay, so you like feedback on the design, per how the personality reads, how the pose looks. Okay, so I kind of got that. Like, it's the pose is very like a bug, how they'll pin like bugs and butterflies and stuff on displays. Hum hum hum. Okay, all right. So the colors, all work really well. I think that's one of your really big strong points. Within the design, they work really well. I like how, you've got the different patches of like blue and gray and white, and they're all placed really well. There's good contrast going on. I really like the asymmetry of the outfit. Like I said, it's very like futuristic looking, especially with all the sharp angles. I like how his hair matches the cut of his outfit. I think that's a really nice design touch. Ooh, so much on. Okay, as for... Uh-oh. You disconnected? Am I back? Hello, hello? Can you hear me? Back? Okay. Phew. I was like, Okay. You're back? Okay. Cool. But yeah. As I was saying, in case I got cut off, the design works really well. The colors are really great. For the posing, I think the design one at the side, looks really, looks great, like anatomy wise. Like all the proportions are very like pleasing. Like, you know, there's obvious stylization and stuff, but it all feels proportioned out really well. And it feels very balanced. As for the larger illustration, um, sorry, I'm just gathering my thoughts. I think it's a little hard to tell the I think there's something going on with this the leg that he has crooked. It's hard to tell though because of the cut of the jacket is covering up kind of the waist area. So I'm not sure if there's if the leg looks too thick or if that's just like an illusion made by the clothing. I think part of it might be the way that this like larger section of the coat is like folded, where it would probably be folded over the leg a bit more tightly. Maybe not tightly, but like it feels very like laid out flat and like it's not connected to the back of the outfit. Although I don't know what the back of the outfit looks like. It looks like there's like been a slit down this side and this is its own piece instead of having it be like a wraparound tail piece. So it's just sitting a little bit weird. I think it just needs to fold over the leg a little bit more. I think maybe that's what I'm reading from it. I think there's also, in general, I think the contrast is great. There's a little issue here with the hair and his face where I think you need like a bit higher contrast somewhere in here because the line art color is blending in with the shadows on his ear a little bit too much. So I just heighten the contrast there a little bit. And I think there's also a little bit of a contrast issue with the bug legs, where they're also a little bit too dark on this darker background. So it's a little tough to see them. Maybe adding a highlight or something would help. But overall, I think you've done a good job. Again, I really like the way you've done the line art. Yeah, it's all feeling good. And yeah, composition-wise, I like how you've done this diagonal. It feels like a pin-up image. I think that's just the posing and the expression and stuff. But I like how you have it at like a diagonal. I think that adds to like keeping things feeling dynamic. I like how you've got the pose to have, again, some nice like crisscrossing lines within it and stuff with the leg and the arm. Just thinking composition-wise. I'm not sure. I think composition-wise, for like a pinup type pose type thing, I might include like the full body, or at least maybe crop it a little bit lower. So you see more of kind of like his knee and leg and more of the boot. Just because I know with cropping, it can create like, you can create some weird vibes with it depending on where you crop like a character. One thing to avoid is cropping at joints, so cropping at like ankles and knees and wrists and the waist and stuff. When you crop there, it creates kind of like a weird stunted kind of feeling to it, so whenever you're cropping, kind of crop in the middle of like the thigh or the shin or the foot or something, like instead of cropping at a joint. So that's the only thing I'd say, just because you have it cropped like right at the ankle and then kind of around his knee. So maybe just shuffling it around so you see kind of more of the character body. So crop at the nose? Yes, exactly. Crop right at the nose. Yeah, but yeah, I think that would be my only thing, is just give a little bit more room at the bottom to breathe. So yeah, I think that's it. Do you have any other questions, Ace? I'm happy to answer. Okay. Only the eyes must be visible? Yes, that is the perfect character art. Okay. That's good. Awesome. Okay, so this character's name is Aoi. He's a half Oni. He goes by the name Yokai for his work, which is very illegal. Oh dear. What illegal work is he up to? I'd like feedback on his design, the style, pose, coloring, shading, perspective, and anything that stands out. And what personality vibes? So he seems like he's got like not himbo energy, but like the same kind of sphere. Like I feel like he goes to the gym with himbos, but he's maybe not a himbo himself. But yeah, he seems like very spunky. He seems like a troublemaker, like a someone who starts fights. But there's something very like genuine and lovable about looks like a good boyfriend. Yes. There's something very like earnest about his expression. Himbo-esque but more trouble. Yeah, exactly. Seems like a himbo, but he maybe isn't like the sweetest or the dumbest. But himbo adjacent. But yeah, but there's something very earnest about his face that I like. Seems like he'd be a really fun like protagonist character in like a shonen manga type story. Who's maybe not the best, like not the like starts out the story not being like the best person, but kind of learns along the way. Anyways, so that's the vibe I get from him. But yeah, super cute. I really love the expressions that you've done here. I think they're yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. Right, anyways, I love the expressions. I think you're doing a great job with pushing your expressions more. I love like his big toothy smile and stuff. And I like this cute little face and this more kind of like show-offy face, or like, and anyways, the expressions are just great. I think you've done a really good job with like balancing the facial expression with like proportions and stuff. I think you've done a really great job there. I think you're doing a really good job with these really dynamic poses. Because this one you also have these really crisscrossing lines, like the kind of way the hips are turned, along with the stance versus the shoulders. It just creates a really dynamic pose, even though your character is like just standing there. You've added some really nice dynamics to a character just standing there, so that's awesome. I really like the proportion as well. I really like how he has like thicker arms and shoulders and stuff, and then kind of tapers off towards the bottom. What else? The colors are great. They feel really fresh and vibrant. Perspective-wise, I think you've done a good job with, it feels like the camera is like right here, kind of across his waist. So then he kind of like, he's tilted back a little bit, and his hips are forward and his feet are back a little bit. So I think you've done that well, especially with the feet and the legs. It feels a little bit off with this arm at the front. Like, I love the shoulder and the torso area. This hand, like, I know you're doing, like, it's kind of coming forward toward the camera, like this a little bit. It feels very... There's just, like, it's like a little bit... The hand is, like, a little bit too big. Like, just a pinch. Like... like, I don't think it's super noticeable, but it's off by just like a little bit. I also think the arm at the back here also feels a little stunted, and I don't think it's because of the shapes you've drawn. I think it's a shading issue, where I think you need to model the cylinderness of the arm a little bit at the back, just so you can kind of see the shape and that it's distorted because like the arm's going back. Yeah, so I think it's just like the shading needs to follow the form a little bit more on this arm in particular. Added more shadow to the back of the arm. Maybe not more shadow, but just like, how do I describe it? I think just like following the form a little bit more and making it feel a little more cylindrical, because the shading as it is feels very flat, like you're using like straight lines-ish. Whereas like if you carve out the shadow so it's a little more rounded, it'll give that more kind of foreshortened, like kept in perspective kind of feel to it, if that makes sense. I love the hair. I love this the little cutout. What is it called? Undercut? Is that it? Anyways, I like the different pieces of the hair. There's something really satisfying about the shape of the horn. Like it works really well with the rest of his shapes as a character. And yeah, and I like the way his hair is shaped around it. It's really satisfying. I don't know what it is, but you did a really good job. But yeah, fantastic work. Your shapes are really, your shapes and your poses are getting really dynamic and nice. And yeah, this is great. Great work, Ace. Did you have any other questions or anything I didn't cover? My goodness, Nightbot, slow down. Space it out a little. That's it? Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you for submitting. Oh, wait. Okay. I'll wait. Puts donuts on it. Does the style look too sketchy in this one? I think the line work is a little bit sketchy. There's places where it feels more defined, like through his face feels a bit more defined, but the only place that's kind of distracting is like in the what do you call it, the jacket around his waist, and then like this arm back here where it feels a little rough compared to the rest of the line work. But I really like what you've done here, like in the arm at the front and on the face, where there's parts that feel like sketchy, but they feel a bit more solid, if that makes sense. Like you can see like disconnected bits and like line weight variety, whereas here it feels more you can see more kind of rough pieces coming off. So I think you can go either way with it. You could have more of this kind of roughness to it, or you could go for this more solid feel, but just making sure you stick to one or the other instead of having them both around. Yeah. A little time smoothing and defining stuff. Yeah, totally. I think that would really help. But I think you've got a really solid solid start here with the way you're lining things right now. I really like it. So yeah, I think that's it. Do you have any other questions? Nope. Okay, awesome. Well, thanks for submitting. Alrighty. So let's see. Who would like to go next? Because we have Ink. We have Sean, who I don't think is here. Oh, you want to do Farwin's now? Yep, I think Farwin's here. Okay, how about we do Farwin's and then Ink will do yours after. Oh, Kuro, we did yours last stream. Oh no! Oops. Hold on, let me get to... There we go, face cam.
Oh my god, time for me to be sunk. Tiny. Hi. I'm gonna ruin Ursula's setup. I'm sleepy, guys. Sup? It was terrible. Quit writing. That's my critique. I'm trying to be the opposite of Ursula, who's like, it's good, I liked it. I'm scared. Oh no. Wait until that happens. So... Oh, she has a water bottle I can steal? How is everybody? Okay. I read chapter 2 rewrite on Firewind's scripts, and you didn't get a lot done. It's okay. It was a short month because of the 24-hour live stream that is happening next weekend. Oh god. Help. Yeah, so you rewrote some of that. The main issue you were trying to deal with was getting information out, which is some of the hardest heckin' BS when you have a big old fantasy story with all sorts of moving parts. Very difficult. in a panic mode because all my chapter 1 art is done and I need to start drawing chapter 2. Oh no, it's hard. So right. The thing is, you have a really interesting world that you're working on, and you have lots of cool visuals, and I'm interested in that little bit you added with what's her face becoming Hag. Like, I feel like that's more good tension, and you're adding lots of like lovely BS. What am I? Conflict. That's what I mean. Well, I mean, I guess conflict is just BS. IRL. No one wants conflict, but in your story, it's good. I'm sorry my stuff is so difficult. I'm sorry for you that it's so difficult because it is hard to get across a really cool world and all the elements in it. So you were worried about it being too info dumpy. And I think it kind of does veer on the info dumpy side still. Not because info dumping isn't like inherently bad. Like sharing information in large paragraphs isn't bad. Info dumping is only info dumping when it's bad, right? Or like not the best, kind of boring. Like you have a lot going on in there. And you still kind of have the issue where you're both trying to introduce the world and introduce a large change in the world at the exact same time, because you've hinted at the world, and you've like you've showed off that the undead are like a common thing in this world, and you've shown a bit of magic, but the first time you're really in-depth discussing things is on the exact same chapter that you're changing everything. And I don't think the info dumps that you added are necessarily bad. Some of them are kind of dense, and I would like tighten them up a bit more. I think one of the issues is that there are so many concepts being brought up at the exact same time, to the point where a lot of what is being said is jargon, and it's a lot to parse through. Tried to shorten them up, but it's so hard. Yeah. So I reading your little description about like what you're trying to get across, that there's like the world is almost radioactive with magic and it's just kind of like seeping up, or like that specific place in the world is like, I think all of that is really cool. I don't know how to discuss it outside of the party. Yeah, that's sort of what I was getting the vibe of. So I feel like the best option right now, like from what I'm looking at, is like, I think the easiest option, because otherwise you're gonna like really have to add a lot more early on, which is really difficult to like change chapter 1 considering you've made it. I might look into like a prologue, honestly. Look into like, because there's a reason that movie adaptations of fantasy books start with those big, oversweeping, visually impressive prologues where they're like, hey, here's the world, let me explain it. Because like, if you look at Lord of the Rings, like they have like multiple prologues to set up multiple different things that do not really exist in the book. And the reason is because when you're working in a visual medium like comics or movies, it's really difficult to sit down and explain information in the exact same way. as novels and whatnot, because you have like, oh my god, I scratched my head and now there's like, it's red. Can you deal with her? She yells. Roo, roo, roo. But yeah, it can be really difficult to get things across completely visually, because when you're writing a novel, you have like every time you write, you can be like adding a little aside about the world. And you can do that visually, but people don't always pick up on everything you need to say, especially how people relate to the world. So like one of the easiest ways you could get around things is to explain the world kind of broadly. A short mini comic on the side to start the main story. Just like I'd strongly consider like adding a beginning where you explain what the world is. You can do it in all sorts of ways. Like just look into like how different fantasies get this across. Journal entries. Yeah, like I do something similar for Magpie, but it just confused everyone. But you find a way to get this all across, because I don't think the party is inherently bad if we've already heard this kind of stuff. Like it's really good to constantly be doing reiteration on like on concepts to help people learn, because like you start with like a big explainer where you're like, oh, here's how 9 point works, and that's not the only time you ever bring that up. You continue to be like, okay, reminder, this is how things work. Oh, this is how this thing works. Reminder, we're about to learn about this again. You already know this. Refresher. And it can get kind of obnoxious, but like it's only obnoxious in your mind. Readers really appreciate that stuff. That's what I've learned with Magpie, is to remind people how things go on. So it's not bad what you've done in chapter 2. I just don't think it should be the first time we're really delving into things, because I think you do well when you're showing your world really subtly and like building off of these concepts and really like engaging people in them. Do you have any specific examples that you think do it pretty well? I gotta think, like, because the only movie I know is Lord of the Rings. Do you know other movies that do that? Like, that have really good, like, opening kind of explainer things? And comics, too. Tangled? Oh, yeah, they explain, like, yeah, Entangled, they explain the flower up at the beginning. Because Lord of the Rings, they start with explaining the world, and then they go into the ring. Like, they follow the entire journey of the ring at the beginning. Because that's, like, the main important thing. And it's a really long prologue because it's a really long story. Like, you want your prologue to match. We have 9 point, where I just explain how everything works. A lot of comics do it, I've found. But I don't... I think, does Shade Runners do it? At some point, they pop off with, like, an explainer. Sometimes it's in the middle. Yeah. I feel like it's just a really common practice. Because sometimes it's also good to look at, like, the bad ones and figure out why you don't like those. I remember the Aragon movie doing it and being like, they're just doing this because fantasy movies do this and not because they need one. I always thought it was bad because prologues are so controversial. Prologues are pretty controversial, but my hashtag opinion is, if you're writing a novel, just label your prologue not a prologue and people will read it. Because it's pretty good to open your story that way. If you look at fantasy visual stories, they don't skip it. Like, no one's gonna skip it because it's got pretty visuals. Like, you're gonna be good. People skip things all the time. Just make it really concise and interesting. Because going back to Lord of the Rings, it's a whole battle scene. Like, it's not boring. It can be really boring if you're just like, oh man, here's let. If you sit it up like a lecture at the beginning, where you're like, okay, it's time to learn about the story. We have a world where magic has worked like this and this. Like, make it cool. Make it something people want to read. It's just about disguising what it is. Yeah, prologues are pretty common because they are really useful. Like, you shouldn't add one because you feel it's mandatory. And they do have a bad rep because people do tend to just be like, all right, history lesson, let's go. But if you're very direct about what you need to get across, I don't think a prologue is going to hurt you at all. It's just going to help explain the story. Like, here's the facts you need to know. I always do it. I'm bad at that. Because Magpie has a prologue. I don't think people hate the Magpie prologue. It's just, but that one's doesn't have as much work to do. It's just like, oh man, there's monsters. Remember that. That's the only thing I need to get across in that one. Do you think I should do something like Ariana reading a book or like a monologue-y prologue? Like, I think it could always work if you're reading a book at the beginning. That can be useful. There's a whole beginning part 1 added. Do you think that helps? And add it in or leave it out? I'm not sure. Like, I don't know what will 100% like work. Like, I'd have to kind of see it, because I don't want to be like, oh man, that would totally work, and then it doesn't. Like, I think you just need to think of like some way to get the information across of like kind of the very like, I think the main thing that you need to get across that seems important is the two hands of magic, because that seems like a very important concept for like the entirety of your story so far, like arcane magic versus the other magic, and that it is popping off in that one place. Like, I think that is the core of what you want to get across, and you want that to come out as clear as possible early on. And the easiest way to usually do that is a prologue, and part of the reason that it's easier is because you don't have to deal with maid and butler kind of dealings, because it's extremely difficult to explain your story from within the context of your story. It takes a lot of extra work, and that's the main reason why I'm suggesting a prologue. Like, I think you could get this stuff across in just your story, but I think it would add a lot of chapters and a lot of slowing down that you might not necessarily want. I thought about showing it more with visuals because it would be hard to talk it. Yeah, I think you do great with the visuals and things. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I think everything you do is great for reiterating the topic. This is kind of my experience with writing Pretty Mouth and no one knowing what is going on whatsoever. Like, I think you need to say it loud and clear for the people in the back. Yeah. I already mentioned breaking this chapter in two. Yeah. It is getting a little long, but yeah. Like, that's just that is my main advice, is if you really need this to be clear, like, you really gotta say it with your chest. Because subtle is great, and subtle is amazing for all sorts of like little details and building off of concepts. But if you don't understand the main concepts, like we miss out on all of the world building and subtlety that you're adding and the visual storytelling. And in your prologue, like you want things to still be visual, but you want it to be very clear. And try not to muddle it up too much with long, drawn-out paragraphs that feel like reading a textbook. Well, I guess textbooks can sometimes be good. Like, textbooks be really concise with highlighted words and stuff, so maybe textbook isn't the right one. Like a manifesto. I don't know. The Haggy thing, because I added that new scene. Thoughts on that? Oh, I thought that was good. Like, I'm really interested in that. Like that's all the cool stuff that's going on in your story. I know that it's unrelated to the magic stuff, but just that specific part. No, I think that's really cool. Like, I love everything about your story. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I went right into all the things I dislike. I think I mentioned that I like that bit. Like, I like all your characters and how they interact with the world, and I love all the arcane stuff and the visuals. Like, I think everything is super duper cool. I just think it would like help to bring people along a little more. Ariana is a mage. It wouldn't be weird for her to be looking at some magical texts about the world. Yeah. I mean, I started off 9 Point in the most cheap way possible, where we're at a school. I guess the way that I try to make that interesting is to like just like my philosophy behind that was it's in a school setting, but we're also learning about Mitzi at the same time, where she's being a know-it-all. Like it's serving some double duty. It's not completely boring because there's a little more flavor to it than just a textbook. But if just like integrate things. You can even do a little teaser at the end or something. Like, you just got to think of like how you can add flavor to a story that's like a section that is very explicitly about getting some certain concepts across. Yeah. Because if you can get scenes to serve double duty without adding confusion, like that is the peak of writing. I'm being winked at. I don't think I have much else to say other than that. That's my main diagnosis. The music stopped. I'm leaving, okay? I love you. Unless there's something like super duper important. I'm just looking at all the things in front of me. Okay, and it would be more work on my part, but do you think I can put this stuff in the beginning of chapter 2, or it'd be too weird to shove it at the end of chapter? It's hard to say because you've only done your first chapter. Like, you're kind of setting the tone for like how long you want your chapters to be. I don't find your chapters too long. Some people just have long chapters. Anyways, yeah. Oh. I love my plants.
Hello. Okay. I have returned. Oh god, I'm sorry. Just kicked the friggin' microphone because it's all changed up. By my dang husband, Bones McCabe. Alrighty. Okay. So Let me see. Okay, so we were gonna look at ink stuff next. Alrighty. Ink, are you ready? Alright. I have some recent work for the stream. Feedback on fundamentals like color, anatomy, composition, etc. would be helpful. The first piece is another try with 3 similar characters based on Resident Evil 8. Second piece is the first draft of a future comic character. Okay. Ooh. Okay, so for the first one with our lovely Lady Dimitrescu and her daughters, whomst I love. Okay, so fundamental stuff. So the first thing I noticed with these is that I think the colors, I think the colors on the characters are good. Yes, this is the tall vampire lady you've heard of. But the colors all work really well together. I like how you've got kind of a desaturated kind of feel to everything. Anyways, the colors all work really well together. I think you did a good job there. The one thing I would say with the background and the characters is that things feel very flat. I don't think you had the same kind of issue with your previous submissions, and I think that's because you had really high contrast backgrounds, where this feels like the colors you've chosen for the background and for the characters in the foreground is like very similar. So it kind of flattens everything out. Like they feel like they're all very much on the same like plane, if that makes sense. Yeah, so it kind of, because the background is very like light, there's not too much contrast going on, it really brings things forward because it's so light. I think there's also some issues with perspective going on in the background. So for example, this curtain thing, I think it's a bedspread, possibly. The perspective on it is we're looking up at it. Like the camera looks like it's looking up because you have the top here and then the back curves down towards the horizon. Like if you followed this top line to the horizon, it's pointing down. Whereas if you look at this dresser that's right beside it, it has the horizon line pointing up. So you either have like... No, I'm not sure. Anyways, the perspective feels very off-kilter. Things feel like they're all following different pieces of perspective or different horizon lines. And they don't... It feels like the camera is looking at different things from different angles, and it's a little... It makes things feel very off, and it's hard to kind of tell where things are in relationship to each other, because these look like they should be right side by side, but the dresser feels like it's pulled forward, and the bedspread feels like it's pushed really far back. You have a line in the back here that looks like it's supposed to be signifying like a wall, but then the wallpaper extends past it before it changes direction and follows this wall. So there's lots of like little kind of background perspective things that are feel very off. And I think, and it's the same with where Lady Dimitrescu is like stood, where she definitely feels like she's in front of everything, but the bottom of her skirt feels very flat. It doesn't feel like she's standing on the ground. Like the dress isn't interacting with the ground at all. It's very much like floating above. And I think it just needs some more like kind of shape and definition. And I think that's just kind of the vibe I'm getting from the characters, where they feel very like flattened. And I think what would really help is doing some figure studies where you're really focusing, or any study really, where you're really focusing on modeling the forms, so making the shapes feel very 3D. And you can do that by doing like contour lines on top of whatever you're drawing. You can do that by doing just focusing on like light and shadow, and really just modeling the shape so it feels more 3D, and doing some studies of that to really kind of make things feel like full and 3D, if that makes sense. Um, I really like what you've done with the characters' eyes, where you've got this like this nice gradient going on. I'd love to see that kind of used kind of elsewhere, because elsewhere things feel very like I was saying, things feel kind of flat. I'd love to see you use kind of more gradients throughout, because that can add some extra definition to things as well. But yeah, but I really like how vibrant you've made their eyes. The colors overall, I think, are really great. Like I said, they work really well together. What am I thinking? Yeah, and I think with the shading and stuff, you're on the right track. Because, like, if you look at Lady Dimitrescu, like, you've got shadow on her hand here, like, defining the forms. You've got it, like, on her shoulder and across, like, her bust and her side and stuff. I think you just need to do some studying about, like, making things feel more voluminous with it. So I think you're on the right track. You just need to do some more studies with it. Let me just make sure that I color anatomy composition. Oh my goodness. Compositionally.
Oh.
your little thread thingy fell down. Okay, compositionally, things feel very I think just with this piece in general, things just feel very flat. The composition feels very flat. I think it would really help. I like how you have this kind of layering going on, where you have like the three daughters in the foreground, Lady Dimitrescu is in the middle, and then you have the background elements. I think you just need to like move in this particular piece, like moving the daughters around would really help. Like, you just have like all this empty space. You've got these like vertical lines going through it, and I think if you just moved some of the characters around to add more depth, so having like having them overlap more, for example, like if you move these two daughters, I don't know their names, I'm sorry, if you move these two daughters like back a little bit, and then had this one who's got like her hand on her sister's shoulder, like having her behind her more, and just playing around with like kind of overlapping elements and stuff, I think that would really help make your compositions feel like more dynamic. And yeah, I think that would just help you compositionally. I'd also be careful. You have like a lot of empty space on the one side, but not on the other side. Over here, things get really cut off, and it makes it feel like it makes it feel like there's like it's been cropped weird. What I'd recommend, if you're gonna have like space on this side, you should have space on the other side as well, so that you're kind of framing the characters within this space and they have some kind of padding and margin around the sides, just so that it doesn't feel like it's been cropped strange. Alternatively, you could crop it on both sides so that it just feels a bit more equal. And I'd also recommend having some more space up top, just again to help things breathe a little bit more. Ladies, Dimitron, Dimitrescu 2, Dimitrescu 3, yes. But yeah, I think just moving some elements around, focusing on modeling the forms, and I'd also recommend putting down like a perspective grid kind of on top of everything to kind of help guide where things are. Will really help you out. But yeah, color choices I think are great. Just some places need more contrast. I like all the character expressions. You can tell who all the characters are. Fantastic. But yeah, really good work. Ink, if you have any questions about that, please let me know. I saw you earlier, but I haven't seen your stuff since. So yeah. Okay, so let me know about that. All right, so the next thing was your comic character. So it's for a fantasy world with bird people. What vibes does he give up? Does the design look too over the top and comical? The story is serious at parts, so I want him to have energy and color, but also someone people can feel for. Okay. Okay, you are hearing. Awesome. Okay, ready for the next one? Awesome. Okay, so as for the character, I'll do the character's like personality read, like what vibes he gives off first. So he feels very he seems very like he seems like kind of cheerful and goofy to me. I think it's the expression and the pose that feels kind of goofy. Like a more comedic character or a more lighthearted character. He seems maybe like kind of sporty. I think it's just the outfit and the colors and stuff, but like he seems kind of like a sporty guy. He's very kind of happy and easygoing, and a bit of a goofball, if that makes sense. Okay, so I think art-wise, like if we're looking at like anatomy and color and stuff, I think I have a lot of the same kind of feedback from the last one where things feel kind of flat. I think again you have like a really good starting point. Like I like how you're using like highlights, which are these lighter colors, and then multiple layers of shadow to really kind of bring out the forms, but I think things are still feeling a little bit flat. And I'm not sure if you're placing the shadows in the best area to show off the structure. So for example, you've got this shadow that is very triangular on his chest instead of allowing kind of like because the front of your chest is very flat. A lot of light will hit it. Um, so it feels very concave or kind of oddly shaped. And then yeah, similar kind of like shadow placement on the legs. This one at the front isn't is doing pretty well. Like you're modeling kind of the side of the calf and having shadow fall there. Whereas like the knee should be a bit more kind of rounded in the shadow and kind of follow the contour of the knee, especially because you have the little kneecap detail there. Whereas this leg, it feels like it's like a little bit too much in shadow and it needs to follow kind of the curve of the leg because there'd be shadow down the back of the calf, probably more than the front of it, just from this angle. So yeah, so little things like that where I think just doing some studies would really help with kind of where to place shadow and light and stuff. But I think you've got a good foundation. I think your coloring style for it works really well. I think you just need um, a little practice with kind of where to place things just to make them feel more shapely. Some places where I really like what you've done. I really like what you've done with the tail. I like within this arm here where you've got this kind of lighter general shadow and then these tighter shadows with following the crease in the arm and the sleeve and stuff. Like that's really great. Don't get rid of that. That's good stuff. Do that more elsewhere. So yeah. Let me see. So looking at the design, because you mentioned you're worried about it being kind of over the top and comical. It feels very superhero-y. I didn't immediately get bird person from it, and I think it feels superhero-y because of, like, the mask. I'm not sure if it's a mask or if it's part of, his face. But it just makes me feel like kind of superhero vibes. Um, as well as like the wings, feathery stuff felt like a cape. So it might just be a matter of maybe making the feathers feel a bit more like attached to him and feel a little bit less like clothing. Yeah, because it feels like it's something draping from his back instead of like, I'm not sure if it's wings, I'm not sure if it's like just feathers coming off. It's a mask thing, like the bird people in Wind Waker. Oh, okay, I see. Yeah, it might help to add more detail to it. Like adding in some carvings or some other kind of pieces to it. It's hard to tell like what kind of material it's made out of. Like, is it made out of wood? Is it made out of like clay or plastic or metal? Yeah, just a bit more kind of detail on it I think would kind of help with it. And yeah, I think also reading the feathers and stuff, it would also help to have like a turnaround of the character. It's hard to tell with just seeing the front. But because I like what you have here with the feet, where you've got these like sorry, my nose is dripping one. I like what you've done with the feet, where you can see like the feathers being part of the character. So yeah, I think it would just help to have this kind of like being able to see kind of where the feathers attach to the rest of his body would really help. But yeah, I don't think you have to worry about it being like too comical and stuff. Because how being able to show like a serious scene, you can still have characters who are wearing kind of more like bright colors and stuff, and still be able to show like more serious pieces of the story. Just by being able to set like the tone with like camera angles and color and stuff within the story, and compositions and stuff like that. So I wouldn't worry too much about like toning down the colors. There is a bit of weirdness with. I'm not sure if this is a like a patch or a just a design on his shirt, or if it's a cutout. And I think it's because it looks like a cutout to me because it's the same, or at least very similar to the color of his skin. So if it is a cutout, I'd add more shadow to really highlight that it is. And if it's not a cutout, I might change the color so that it doesn't match his skin color as much because it looks like a cutout on the shirt. There's also some perspective stuff happening on the pants, I think, where you're showing one pant leg from below and the other pant leg from above. Because the one at the back from below, you can see, like, inside the cuff, whereas here you can't. So just based on, like, the placement of his feet, I think both of them you wouldn't be able to see inside the pants. They'd be more kind of curved down over the knee. So that's just something to watch out for. Yeah, I think that's my feedback. I think with this arm here, you've done a good job. Just this hand feels a little bit wonky. I'm not really sure what it's doing. If it's supposed to be like sitting on his hip or if it's curled into a fist. It's a little hard to tell. But otherwise, I think anatomy-wise, you've done a good job. It also, just to give you a sense of like how it reads as a fantasy world, is it like a fantasy world that's like a modern setting? Just because he's wearing like a t-shirt and jeans and stuff and a belt, it feels more like a contemporary setting more than like a medieval fantasy setting. So just in case that's you wanted feedback on how his clothing reads. But yeah, I think that is all my feedback. Okay, awesome. So yeah, let me know if you have any other questions, Ink. And thank you for submitting. All right, who would like to go next? I think Sean is away. Okay, so our only other person is Marina. So in that case, I think, Marina, I will go over yours because we missed yours on the last stream because we're silly. Oh, and also, Kuro, I'm glad that you're able to see your critique. I'm sorry we did it when you weren't there. For some reason, I thought you were there. So yeah, so. Let me know if you have any questions, Kuro. You're here? Okay, awesome. So. Sure, Kuro. Do you mind if we wait till we finish with Marina's and then we'll, and then I'll do your answer your question. So I'm gonna redesign what was a sorry. I was gonna redesign him as a peacock in a more fantasy outfit, but I wanted to see how V1 reads. Okay, awesome. Cool. Okay. Oh no, Marina, you're fine. We just totally missed your message. Okay. Of course, awesome. Thanks, Kuro. Okay. So, when I was reading through your comic, the Dungeon University, I think you've got a good handle on a lot of like comicking fundamentals. I found your compositions work well. Like you've got a good sense of like when to place establishing shots, when to like you do compositions well. Like I like how you do kind of a pan here, like you show the books and you can read them, you see the character's expression, and then on the other side you see the door. And yeah, and I think you place things really well. Overall, good composition. You've got good flow as well. It's really easy to kind of tell where to look next. I really liked the chapter 1 kind of not splash page, but the chapter 1 title page, where you've got like the the little memory thing going on where it's like, do you remember what happened? No. And then he wakes up in the hospital. Like yeah, I think the way you pace things out works really well, and I really like it. Your story seems really intriguing. Like I'm curious about like what happened to him, why he's at the school, his relationship with this sharp-toothed redhead. One thing I would recommend is introducing your characters' names. I'm just not sure like what to call everyone. It feels silly in comics, but and it feels kind of like unnatural when characters are constantly saying like each other's names all the time, but you have to like reiterate it a lot, just because people need to know the name of the character while they're reading. Some people might not read, like if you have it just in the description, people might not read that. So it's good to say like, oh no, it's you again, so and so. Yeah, so just reiterating names a lot will really help, being able to tell what characters are there. Another thing I'd recommend is, like I said, you have a good sense of like where to put establishing shots. Like you show like the dorm, you show that little like kind of courtyard thing they go to, showing the hospital room. I think you're good at establishing where things are, but I think you need to make sure that you're including background elements throughout. Just because like when they're practicing fighting and when she summons like the door, I was like, where are they? I'd love to see that kind of fountain statue thing in the background. Just to see kind of like where they are in relationship to it, just so that it doesn't feel so much like a blank room once the setting has been set up. And it doesn't have to be every panel has like a background element, but just like every once in a while check in so I know where they are in relationship to the setting that you've set up. And yeah, exactly. Otherwise you get an Elias and Eris situation where it's like, who is who? So yeah, reiterating the names is important. Oh, one other thing I noticed was whenever you would introduce a new character, you'd have kind of the color call out panel like you have on this display page. I noticed it with Chromia, I think was the other character's name. Yeah, Chromia. Right, yeah, I noticed when you would introduce a character, you'd do like a color panel, which I think is cool. I really like it. I would recommend doing some other color callouts just because I was thinking about it. And if the only time you do a color callout is when a character is introduced, you're gonna have the front part of your comic really loaded out with these like color callout panels, whereas the back end of the comic where new people aren't really being introduced, you won't have that color. So yeah, I might, if you're gonna keep doing color callouts, I might choose like important panels, like where there's like a big reveal or an important moment, adding some color, or maybe just like the first panel of every scene maybe get some color. It's totally up to you what you want to do with that, but like I think just having more, if you're gonna use color, use it a little bit more, just to show off just so that things feel more balanced going forward in your story. I also liked how you used the little text message call out thing as a panel. I thought that was really cool. And I'd love to see more stuff like that through the comic as well. But yeah, throughout the whole thing, I didn't find it was hard to read. I could follow along what was going on. I think the only thing I'd like to see is more backgrounds, more color callouts where they're appropriate. But yeah, I think you've got a good handle on like the comic fundamentals. But yeah, I think you've got a good grasp on the writing and the comic stuff and how to set up panels. I think you just need some more little details, and I think you mentioned you were working on kind of the more art fundamental stuff as you go along. So yeah, did you have any other questions or anything I missed? I can definitely find more spots for that. Awesome. I do love the redhead. I love her design. I just want her to attack me with a fireball and a sword. I also feel really bad for the main character just getting thrown into like a magical school. Getting beaten up by like a vampire lady. I don't know if she's a vampire, but yeah. Yeah, it looks like she's got little crosses in her eyes. See, I love it. I love that little detail. That's it. It's good to know I'm on the right track overall, so give me a boost for continuing it. Hell yeah. Good luck with your comic. I like what you're doing with it. Yeah, she does. Awesome. So yeah, let me know if you have any other questions. I'm happy to answer. Kuro, what was your question that you had about your critique? I'm happy to answer. No problem. Thanks for submitting. Well, thanks for being patient with us. I'm so sorry we lost track of your submission. Alrighty. Coral. Let me just pop open one of your pieces so we can see it on screen. With the known service style, if you remember the last one, how would I be able to do people of color with it? Oh. True, if you have dark skin tones. Yeah, that feels like that's kind of if I can't, I'll have to use style 2, which was my fave, but I am biased with that character. Yeah, I think you could. I think you'd need to either I think you'd need to allow, okay, so similar to how Magpie, which is like a basically black and white comic, where I try to as much only use black ink and white paper. For some characters with like darker skin tones, I'd use like a gray tone or a couple grays. Same with and I've seen that done with like other comics and stuff that are in black and white, just to be able to show characters who have different skin tones other than paper white. but I made sure when I was doing that, so it's like I didn't want to only use it on character skin, so I'd bring in gray tones throughout the comic, kind of as needed, like I'd use it for like drawing shadows, I'd use it to highlight things, and just incorporate it in so you could. I was afraid it may take away from the style. Yeah. I'd recommend doing some tests. I feel like I'd need to see it to give like a better feedback on it. But yeah, it might take I know, because in the other styles you did include like skin tones and stuff. This was the only one that was like pure black and white with just like color pops. So yeah, you might need to see if like you can add like maybe a gray. Maybe you do need to keep the skin tones in as part of it. Because the other thing with this style is it's very not flat, but very high contrast, I guess. Whereas like your more kind of shaded style had more of those kind of mid-tone shadows and stuff, where this is very stark black and white. So maybe you can find a way to kind of balance keeping things very like stark while also adding in more than just the one color pop. Depth, yeah. Because this one with your shadows, you're mostly using like cross hatching. So maybe yeah, you can still add in more colors, but just use cross hatching for shading instead of using like actual shadows like in your second style. So it's kind of like this, but toned down, where instead of using these really distinct shadows, maybe using more cross hatching, and keeping things a bit more kind of airy. Does that make sense? If you want to. If you really like the second style, then I'd say go for it, if that's the one you prefer. But yeah. Good question. Good thing to think about is making sure you can show different skin tones with your comic style. How to submit? Is it already too late for me to do anything? Zodiac, if you are so to sign up to get your stuff critiqued, you need to be a Patreon supporter on the $8 tier. There should be a link to our Patreon down below. And yeah, so if you are a Patreon supporter, it's too late to get your stuff submitted this month, because we do the critiques normally at the end of the month. This month is weird because we're doing the 24-hour stream next weekend, but so yeah, so it usually like a day or a week in advance of when the stream is to get it submitted. But if you join the Patreon and submit now, you'll have your stuff looked at the end of July. If that makes sense. Sorry, I missed the Thursday. No problem. We were totally advertising it as like the long form, and then we included your short form. So yeah, I'm sorry for the confusion, Kuro. Okay. Awesome. So finally, we'll look at Sean's stuff. So let's see what was said. Okay. So the first character is Artemis. Can I get feedback on the look, style, and personality and role in the story? And overall feedback is welcomed. Okay. So Artemis. Okay. So I always really like what you do with your kind of depth of field stuff, because I like how you can see the reflection in the glass, but you also get a sense of like a room around them. I think is really nice. So yeah, I love all the atmospheric stuff you do in your artwork. It's really cool. I love to see it. As for personality, So just looking at this illustration, Artemis seems like a very serious person. They look very thoughtful. I feel like, okay, I think this is just because I associate the name Artemis with the Artemis Fowl books. I'm like, is this a male character, a lady character, a non-binary character? Because for me, Artemis is like a unisex name, even though I don't think it is. I think it's like a lady's name, but um, oh, I thought they were a ghost. They were open to see it was a window. No, it's like a reflection of a window, I believe. But yeah, so I'm unclear of the character's gender, but I think that's just because I'm just looking at the face. But yeah, they seem very serious. I'm also having trouble distinguishing the age. I can't tell if they're like a young character or like an older character. I see like, oh no, that's window reflection. I thought this little streak was like a line of gray in their hair, but it's just a reflection on the glass. So yeah, they look like a younger character to me. And I feel like from this they're either like a villainous character maybe, or a very serious protagonist. Like they just have this very serious, pensive vibe to them. As for the style, I love, like I said, I love the little atmospheric details you have with the backgrounds and stuff. I love the really distinct shadows, like the one under the chin. Yeah, I think you're really good at defining like the shapes and adding shadows. You keep things pretty minimal, like you have a very stylized style. But yeah, but I love your shape work. It's really solid. Um, um, the one thing I'd watch out for, it might be just the one image we're looking at with this character. The protagonist who didn't want to be the protagonist, I could see that, yes. Okay, one thing to look out for. So the shape you have is very angular with the hair and with like the very triangular like bangs and stuff, and the like triangles with like the chin and like under the neck. I feel like that kind of angularness, it's hard to say because it's kind of angular, but they're kind of like soft angles, if that makes sense. I feel like this side of the face is kind of missing that. It feels like a little bit too rounded compared to everything else, where everything has like a bit of an angle. So I might just sharpen up that kind of shape a little bit more for this character, but I would be curious about seeing like a turnaround of what they look like to get a better vibe from them. Colors are great. They're all very harmonious in this. It's all these kind of like reds and stuff. Yeah, I really like how you use you've got such a great balance between like really saturated colors and desaturated. I really like how the main character is very saturated. It feels like there's light shining on them, where the background is very desaturated. It feels like it's very dark and in shadow. Yeah, just great work with the color and everything. So yeah, when you're back, please ask me any questions you have on the Discord. Yeah, work on your turnarounds, Lawrence. Okay, so the next one is Lady Morgana. Role in the story, personality, style, and lighting. Okay. So for her, she strikes me as a villain. I think it's just the very cool color palette that you have, because it is mostly black and white, but you also have some of this like blue in her skin tone and stuff. I think just like with the dark eyes and the dark clothing and stuff, the very kind of bleak atmosphere around it, she feels very villainous to me. Again, I love the atmosphere stuff. I like the kind of gestured in background. It feels like she's in like a snowy forest type thing. Um, she's up to some magic shenanigans. Yeah, the lighting you've done is really cool. I love how like it bounces off like her face and like the inside of her hands. I love how you've got this like distinct shadow of like the back of her hands versus like the front of her hands. And yeah, just really great work with the light. I think you've got a very good sense of like where your light source is coming from. You've got great contrast with the lighting. For this one, this feels very kind of gestural. I know a lot of your work feels very like concept work. This one especially feels that way, where it's very sketchy, very gestural. It feels like trying to figure out lighting, for example. As really a study, especially like with the hands, they get pretty kind of sketchy and messy. Same with like the body, where you've put more kind of focus and detail into the face. Okay, so as for her personality, like I said, role in the story, she feels very villainous. I could also see her as maybe like who's the lady from Lord of the Rings who gets all scary? Who's the lady who gets all scary? The elf lady. Galadriel. That kind of vibe. Hi, Chorl. I'm back. Who's the vampire? Oh, I could also see vampire vibes just from the blue skin. Also, we stand vampires with pointy ears. Oh, thank you for what's got the name. Man, I sure do know Lord of the Rings. Would you believe I've only seen the movies like twice? Once when they first came out, and then once watching it all with Bones. Anyways. But yeah. Personality-wise, she seems very, I feel like just the lighting and the coloring is really like affecting me, but she seems very kind of cold and like alien. Like I feel like she doesn't emote very much. And I can see her moving like with very like stiff kind of purposeful movements. I think part of it is just like the really like the black eyes where it's very inhuman, feels very alien. But yeah, but I could also see her as being like maybe a more kind of like soft-spoken like knowledgeable character who kind of looks scary but is actually soft. But I mostly get kind of villainous evil sorceress vibes from her. But yeah, I would, because this feels like it's like a character study or a lighting study. If this was like a full illustration, I'd definitely like pull it out so you could see what this like white magical thing she's looking at, like see that properly, because I'm curious, because these look like little hands or feathers or antlers, I'm not sure, but I'd love to see kind of like what the magic stuff she's interacting with. But just as like a lighting and character study, I think the composition is great. So yeah, again, let me know if you have any questions once you're back. Okay, so then Owen. Personality, lighting, and role in the story. Okay. Personality. So Owen seems very... Owen strikes me as like a softy type character. I think I'm getting that from like the kind of rounded square vibes from him. He seems like he'd be like a reliable friend. I'm also getting like supernatural vibes just from like the black eyes again, just because I know you have other characters who have more kind of like you can see the whites of their eyes, where he's got like an all black eye again. So I'm not sure if he's like a human character or if he has magic. But yeah, but he definitely seems like a reliable kind of guy. In this particular image, he seems kind of like melancholy, or like worried or sad, or serious. But overall, he looks like a very friendly character who would be a good, reliable friend to have. I love the lighting. I love this kind of like twilight dusk kind of feel in the background. Those purples are just like mwah, chef kiss. So beauty. But yeah, but I like how you've got the kind of soft lighting behind him. I'd love to see more highlight on his hair. Just to see, because you've got such like great light reflecting off like the tops of his shoulders and like off the side of the sides of his face and the back of his neck. I'd love to see that kind of same light effect on the hair. But yeah, great work with the shadow and the lighting. It's very subtle, but it gives this very like soft kind of dusky feel to it. It feels more like Dawn to me, because I find Dawn is a bit more kind of these soft pinky colors. Sometimes you'll see like a yellow in there, where Dusk is a lot more more orange and yellow and more stark, I guess. Where Dawn is a lot more kind of hazy. But yeah, love the color work. Composition's great too. Yeah, I think you've done a really great job with the shape stuff here, like I was saying. By using like these kind of soft squares for everything. I think it works really, really well to give the character a lot of personality and a really distinct shape. Pardon me. And I love the little particle effect that you have going on. For my work, I need to start adding more kind of like effecty stuff, because it really makes just like this nice little difference where it just feels more real and lived in, if that makes sense. More finished. So yeah, I think that's it. Sean, let me know if you have any questions when you get back. I'm happy to answer. And I think I'm just gonna quickly scroll through. I don't think we missed anything this round. No, okay, awesome. So yeah, that is it. Thank you all so much for joining. We will be back on Thursday for a regular stream. And then Saturday we do our 24-hour stream where we're gonna make a 24-page comic in 24 hours. And you're gonna slowly watch us lose our minds. And gross cry. Live on camera. Alrighty, well, that's everything. Thanks so much to everyone who submitted and was brave and courageous and got their stuff critiqued on stream. And we'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. Oh no, I have to find the thing. I said goodbye too fast. Goodbye.